Hello everyone, thanks for 20,000 subscribers. Sometimes I make a channel update and these occasions are essentially the best ones to talk a bit about, where we're going with this. So first of all, of course, I want to express my gratitude for this milestone. As you know, there is a history playlist in which you can find these sort of less historical, sort of sometimes more philosophical, but times also very practical as well videos about the channel, my if not my background, because I don't talk much about myself, and definitely at least some clarifications about some sort of positions where I read history, I address different topics, and indeed, how's the channel doing? What can we grasp from say the analytics, etc. So it's important to start by thanking you for your support. As you know, from there on started an acceleration in subscriptions, and we made lots of subscribers fast, which sort of changed the channel. Many of you are acquainted with, say, the history of Schwerpunkt, at least the various phases that the channel went through. That is, again, all documented in the history playlist. And that it's definitely a long road, right? It's more than 6 years, not quite daily since the beginning that I'm here. The channel has definitely gone through a considerable amount of challenges that, of course, are not over because the growth rhythm wasn't as fast. I can't say as I thought, right? It would actually get, of course, as I hoped in some way, of course, but that is easily explainable. It gets down to my type of content. Many ways we will be discussing this later. It's important to have reached this number of subscriptions because even though the number of subscribers has not been so relevant for YouTube like up to some year ago, I think the smaller channels and the ones that also, of course, grow accumulate, say, doubling this case, the number of subscribers in a relatively short time, etc., of course, are at least fueled by an actual, coexisting viewership. Like, it's not just a accumulation of numbers. I get lots of people that unsubscribe. A few, like it's 1 to 10, I think it's a normal rate for YouTube. There are lots of accounts that get shut down at similia. So in general, I have learned different things from this experience. I realize now much better than before how everything works, and I'm fairly satisfied about how this has been going. Telling the truth, like, I understand why this pace, and I understand what can be done also to improve this in the future, even though I'm going to stick mainly to my previous style for different reasons I explain now. The path, as I was saying, to this has been fairly long in perspective, considering all the videos that I uploaded. I have always believed in what I called at the beginning of the channel, like this saturation strategy, for which it was important to start talking about many, of course, different things still within mostly medieval history because of my background and my work. And that, however, could lead us somewhere else. Like, this channel has never been just about history. It's properly never meant, and I say this very clearly to all the new subscribers, nor to entertain anyone, nor to be just like the umpteenth, sort of history channel in general. I don't consider Schwerpunkt to be only specifically about this. The best definition would be a military history channel that I would like to have made much more about the art of war, strictly meant, which of course we have encompassed, and that I'll probably also start making more content on, but that exactly for this I think should be and because of the relevance, the political implications should be, and the non-obvious ones that I say without modesty, that of course there are some things on Schwerpunkt you cannot find by definition anywhere else, right? Given again the objective that is essentially spreading awareness about what, say, morally and scientifically we study the art of war for, and what kind of implications this has politically, morally, culturally, right, and beyond. Naturally, there is a lot of other stuff on Schwerpunkt going on, and I think that many of you subscribed to my channel because of that, like the sense of that I also fueled over time, like perhaps the truly ultimate objective beyond, like the art of war being in that sense like a Schwerpunkt that can open, say, the gates to much else, right? And it is definitely true. This is true especially from a couple of years ever since I started talking more about, say, religious tradition specifically, and all the sort of narrative that the channel has acquired. There's been some debate sparking from this, apparently, because people seemingly got interested more in my own ideology rather than, say, focusing on what I'm explaining concretely about how you get there and why, right, in true history. In fact, it's also this sort of cocktail of topics, of themes that you can't quite find anywhere else, right? There is a path that my channel could follow, and that's an interesting one that would be at times criticizing other channels' contents, because I admittedly don't watch other channels. I don't have the time for that, but it's unavoidable to stumble upon some other people's content, looking at just being attracted by a thumbnail or something, and I literally don't watch it. That is like, this is not because of, say, this is made by other people. I watch other people. Actually, I use YouTube a lot, right? But I do it mostly for entertainment, right? I watch, I don't know, movie clips, political commentaries, certain series that I like, songs, right? Search for them. That's what I use YouTube for mostly, right? And I don't have the concrete time, given my job and Schwerpunkt and everything else, to even just like plan to listen to other people's content, which I would otherwise do, right? Back in the day, I used to watch some, never being a very intense consumer, some sort of I like Schola Gladiatoria, for example. I watched Lindeberg for a while, but it wasn't like I would wait for the new content, stay here. I would just watch a video or two to say, okay, well, this seems interesting about weapons, about certain aspects, I don't know, small unit tactics and other stuff. But that was also in the early years of Schwerpunkt, in which I was refining lots of other concepts that, in fact, I think within the art of war being way more important than those, and I make this abundantly clear in my content, and that I also sort of stopped. I said, okay, well, I learned what I had to learn. I know where these people are going. I have better stuff to do on my own, and of course, I've been growing myself, and I'm speaking for myself, not to say that my content is better than theirs or something like this. I would like to be more critical towards not specifically these two channels, because they do good stuff, but especially the bigger ones that sort of have this cartoonish approach, this extremely brief explanation of incredibly complex and nuanced topics that really, in the way they are presented, that's the thing that sort of triggers me the most for an eventual response and criticism, that I think are distorting the mass view, the pop view of so many different historical topics that, by the way, these channels seem to address, sometimes like for genuine interest from whoever runs them. Like, I could make names, but I'm not going to do that. At some point, a very famous channel to write scripts for them but of course I'm not really the type who writes scripts for other people. Everything I've ever done was on my own, right? And actually throughout all my career, every time I ever, like the rare occasions on which I followed anybody's advice, I made mistake. Every time I followed my guts, I succeeded. And this somehow spirits me. But I was saying, of course, that the majority of the historical information is also guided by the same YouTube, in other words, or at least the sponsors that, of course, represent something culturally speaking. But there is probably a section of YouTube that tells you which are the most paid topics, to make it simple, by the same sponsors. And you realize that I have to make a video exclusively on that to show how dependent YouTube is, and consequently also how spoiled really the historical author is on the platform because of this. And as you know, instead, I've always been doing my own stuff. Like I cover very important sort of clip topics. Things change over the years, by the way. When I began, I think I was the only person, together with Matt Easton, to have ever uploaded something called Migration Era, or talking about the Merovingians, for example, at least in my case. Today, the situation is different. Things have changed. There has been some refinement in the, at least in the topic choice, in part also the quality of the research. Is not to say that the videos that are made are just always bad, but it's the system, like how this eventually does make system and affects the audience. I think that is sort of very strange, and I think is actively starting to push it. This is not just for history, this is also for politics, etc. I think we are letting people essentially following their own most basic animal instinct impulses against the the fake promise that essentially those are the best version of yourself, and so that basically it's okay what kind of human being you are, as opposed to understanding that the sort of personal, cultural, moral standards are collapsing. Right? It may be, mass education spreading, or the world growing to some extent, and some situations to be leveled, to be gapped. But this is not coming. This is an absolute improvement. This is not coming at the same improvement of quality. And this is a theme of my videos that at some point has sparked controversy, because many people have also contacted me privately, ask me questions about different topics, politics, history, religion, etc. They point out this, you're untypical, right? And sometimes, like if I were to make a video claiming, like properly in the most straightforward telegraphic, right, non-habitually Schwerpunktian way of explaining things, all my positions, I don't think that most of you would ever follow me. This is an important aspect of the story. It's not to say that you wouldn't understand over time why I do what I do, and in fact, actually, most of the videos I make are meant to explain this, right? If, as I said at the beginning, you're searching for cheap entertainment, like that's sort of mashed script that tells you, like, not even the ABC of just one place, because maybe you come from there and you think that I'm flattering you because you come from that place. Like, just know that this channel is the diametrically opposite deal of that, and I'm ruthlessly violent in my ideology. If you actually found out how extreme or absolutistic it is, you would probably also sense much of my inherent tyranny. Like my sort of, I have some interesting, like I'm very disagreeable, and especially, but also very open in the leftist sense of open, the psychoanalytical side of open, and that apparently does tilt towards tyranny to an extent. There is also this is so important on so many levels. You see, I'm open about this too, right? Even though this is not what I meant by saying open before, meaning that my channel doesn't have really anything to hide. Like, it's the reason why I don't talk about these things openly is that I don't think they make any difference, right? Because at the end of the day, what I'm here for is to talk history. That is to show how reality works, not what people wish that reality was, which is actually what most people tend to do when they do not know what reality is. And that's why I talk a lot of history, because many people have seem to have, especially like the sense of abstract, sort of weird and effeminated, frankly, like sense that history is a sort of fiction, or sort of imaginary place in which you can project yourself, and this goes in parallel with actual fantasy fiction, and that apparently also, psychoanalytically speaking, is very much connected with feminism and with the diametrically opposite meaning that my channel actually has. At so many levels. It is true that the phase in which I talked about traditional religion was relatively brief. It was just 1 year, last year fundamentally. Up to last summer, I uploaded some interesting stuff. Then some things happened in my life. I sort of fell back on my my so-called cycle of topics that apparently fascinates many of you, but that is sort of the vanilla side of Schwerpunkt, right? And that's why now we'll talk also about the incoming content, what is that I'm planning for the future, because it's evident that Schwerpunkt is changing, right? Even in 20,000 is a lot. I explain now why for me, like for my personal sensitivity, it is a lot because it has a specific meaning, but of course it's not a big channel. Yeah, being in the scale of multiple tens of thousands is definitely an achievement that is meant to be functional for further growth, and I've never had like so-called viral video going on, but I see that that of course maybe these are watched more frequently, that there is an ever greater reach, that people from, in this sense, every background arrives, and that's very good, and I have expectation for that, but at the same time I realize that my content is not for everyone, and it's definitely difficult to consume. There are so many, say, aspects you can get only when you sort of properly enter the multitude of content that I've made. You develop that sense of, I want to really know what this is about, and especially start sort of sensing the hidden message that I have in my content. That is something that a very few so far have, become aware of, like have sort of consciously approached, and that have been fascinated with as much as I am, of course. And this is not a video, in fact, in which I'm going to talk this in general, but just for what I was talking about before, I think that also addressing other content is relevant, especially in a methodological sense, right? I mean, other channels' content, right? There is something. I honestly detest that because I want my own niche. I don't, as you know, I'm not hurrying for views or watch length or whatever. Of course, always encourage you to subscribe, to watch, because of course it's funnier for me. But I mean, I'm going to just I'm going on anyway. At least I confess that I thought not of seriously leaving, but there were times in and completely unrelated from the views or whatever, in which I said, look, what I'm doing here may be, substituted with something else in my life. And again, this is not even like a primary thing, as you know, it's a sidebar from most things I do, the idea being that, of course, I don't know. What really I dislike, telling the truth, is that this content is hosted on a platform and it is not me, right? And so this is actually the greater problem with most people that make even those people make an actual living out of YouTube, and that terrorizes especially those who have uploaded so much and they don't want to see this shut. I can't think of a situation in which my content can become source of controversy, at least for YouTube. We may never know. But let's say that exposing myself, criticizing other content is always like, oh my god, you have to listen to responses, whatever. I've already done it, by the way, and nobody has responded to me so far because the channel is too small. But were I to go on and were I to use this to fuel more views or whatever, it would be a really different thing. That's why you are crucial in this, because if the channel grows by itself without, of course, it would be attacked at some point, I wouldn't probably respond to most of the criticism, or were I to do that, I would do it in ways that, of course, do not affect anything of what I do on the channel, except offering you a bit that sense of competition, of drama, of conflict. But again, I'm not really interested in that per se. Just I think that at some point it's important to exemplify what things go wrong, that entire generations that have literally been, if not grown, but influenced by YouTube, seemingly have absorbed to the degree that are not able to distinguish anymore, right? And that's at least, it's not, again, the first of my concerns, whatever I have, I can be pretty cynical, again, were you to know where I come from with all this, why I do it, what's the ultimate plan, etc. Like it's, there are bigger, more important things. So looking back at, say, all the videos I've made, and looking now at some, say, increase, right, and acceleration in the subscriptions, etc. Like it's, of course, in an autonomous way, of course, rewarding, right? So I, again, think that your contribution here is really precious, and that you have this opportunity at least to watch all this enormous amount of content that most of you are literally not aware of, because I think most people at least, and YouTube, it has become this, like, do not search for content anymore, right? Just what they're being essentially suggested, what they're recommended, that they end up watching and just coming across. And I understand it because to an extent I fall into this myself, right? But if you care about my specific type of content, of course you can't do without the rest, right? So it's not to say just watch more content of mine, but just know that, for example, I know there are playlists that, even if you are not interested in my broader message because, I don't know, you don't give a damn or you don't have time, whatever, that if you're picky or more selective for a single topic, whatever it is, this is not the right way to consume my content, but it's plenty of playlists, right, that really offer that customized content, like for sometimes even very in-depth, like sort of very focused times and space. So this channel also does not really, I'm telling all the things that, I don't know, have, that may not be that relevant. It's not in order of importance, but for example, some of you back in the day said, well, you never answer us, or you don't tell us, I don't know, the story of the sources, or, I don't know, there is the sense that I stay aback, like I don't, of course, I don't have time actually to interact more frequently with the channel, with the community, and it's not very good. I would say I wish I had more time to do so and to answer all your questions. There is a question and answer series that sometimes satisfies people's curiosities regarding my content, etc. This is just not like okay, I want to see this video and I will make it. But that's never worked. Like, it has never worked just even to expand the channel, like following what the sponsors told me to make, just for this blackmail. Like, if I will push your content out more, I said no. Of course, I have much lesser pressure from the audience, because you don't even ask me for that more than much, telling the truth. The reason why I touch on this topic actually is that I feel like that purpose for which I choose the topics, even from the cycle that is still anyway, in fact, say, contained, like within a certain choice that I made, is that you may think that I'm just like this sort of random video thrower, because I do this outro because I make one a day, and so if you wait for some time, and chances are that you're gonna have your, I don't know, favorite topic covered. Well, I wish you learned to browse through the content, because again, it has an intrinsic, say, an inherent or organic logic that unfortunately escapes, and I think could bring the audience much closer to it once it's probably gotten right. As we'll see now, also the content sometimes is not necessarily what you think of. Like, I have this, let's say, in the community, I mostly noticed that there is one core of very dedicated, devoted, loyal followers that appear. Everyone's, say, you understand from the comments, from the interactions, that they're around more or less all the time. Normally, stay around for I mean, this type of person, say, archetypal sense, stays around for a couple of years. Then they are always around. They interact less. Also, people change, they grow. Like, this is what I can say at a point. Maybe I don't know how repetitive my content is really, because I tend to, as you know, make at least an introduction in which I frame the topic, and that at times does sound more political, moral, and I repeat myself. But of course, the content is different enough. Like, it's diversified enough, especially now. Like, I reach a very good level of also mechanical, methodological, and even linguistical capacity. It may not be optimal indeed, but they are allowing me to do more better, and I would say much better than before, of course. So that, for example, I have currently, I think, 46 videos prepared in advance. Before, to make a video took me so long. Now I can't do it even in 40 minutes preparing the entire thing. Then of course I have to make the video, so the elaboration process is very short, telling the truth. As you know, there is no special effect of particular relevance or notice, which is in part like why the content is not so engaging. You have to listen to me speaking for all this time, and after all, you don't even know who I am. I don't give you too much satisfaction with responses, whatever. So I get all these things, right? Over the years, aside from my rambling style, etc., I understand. I've come to develop. You develop a sensitivity towards these things, right? This is the beauty. This is how it happens in every field, right? As you develop it in your own job, you develop it in this. That now it's something I do from some year, and that daily, of course, confronts me with the type of reaction. And the dedicated core is very affectionate, is very positive, even when you disagree. You're very nice about it. There are some things, like everything is overlaps in this kind of categories. Then I honestly receive sort of the BIS-like instinctive pressure by people who just want me to, and because the core follows, of course, the topic I gave them. And then there is another part instead that is much more cursory and meteoric, let's say, that Like they come and go. Like, there are people that you find once in the comments and then they disappear. There are definitely people who are, I don't know, maybe they are long. I don't often have the possibility of seeing whether their followers are, and since when they are subscribed or have subscribed, or even like if they're not subscribed, I can't even properly see how long they've stayed around. I know of people like that since the beginning that are around, which is fascinating. But more or less, the sort of wilder pressure comes from political extremism. That is extremism not because it's unbalanced in the ideological spectrum and thus say better or more veracious or more true to the ideals. This is the lower instinct, the lower animal. They are nationalists and or socialists, right? Which is a concept, in fact, many people struggle to understand. Like, again, the children raised the YouTube generation, the iPhone generation, now with AI, they're gonna reason in primitive categories without any kind of political education. They literally don't understand what I'm doing here. And the weird thing is that when I'm criticized, because of course my content is of course a conservative one. I told it many times. I'm beyond the far right, right? I'm beyond the far right, which is in itself may not mean anything. It just sounds just like a provocation. This is also a optical distortion because, as you know, I don't believe in the left and the right. At least I believe in a vertical development. And of course, there is. I believe that the left and the right do not have an equal value, but the level of approximation, say, of people's quality in just down in the lowest echelons is so banally homogeneous that it's difficult not to see that properly the emptiness of values is easily reflected by the majority pretty disoriented about. Like, if you look at the extreme, they're like pathological cases. There are people who are either hyper, I don't know, that there is some hormonal component sometimes, but it's also sometimes just a matter of background, of mental disturbances, of trauma or whatever. But there's probably the lack of a true doctrine, right? It's not even about the traditional side of the story. That would be, of course, the best thing ever. But I don't know how to say that. Back in the day, there were at least some communists, few communists admittedly, that, I don't know, they knew literally, and not just wishful thinking, German and Russian to actually study the entire work of Marx and Lenin, right? These people today do not belong to the human race anymore, right? They're just a bunch of pretenders that essentially, by failing in self-actualization, skip also those last capacities of like also development that could exist even in this nationalist and or socialist ideologies, and that are just like playing to nothingness. By the way, just think about how sort of, I don't know how to say, how much malaise there is in someone who thinks that, for example, I don't know, YouTube is, or the internet in general, is a space for venting their, say, ultimately achieving their political dreams, whichever they are. But it's part of our times, it's part of our history, it's what lesser people do. My work is, in this sense, also making me wonder, like, how, as I said before, how much could I do beyond this? And that's where the subscribers matter, because if at least I have the capacity of influencing someone through this, I feel, of course, more like I feel how, say, palpably successful this idea is. And as you know, I believe myself that it's not much the mean, but of course the end that matters. I mean, at least the actually accomplished end that finally matters, right? So of course, for everything there must be that level of preparation and even withdrawal from the world to an extent. Believe it or not, I'm actually well traveled, and I admit, like, yeah, I don't have much of a social life, but quality relations are, of course, like the only thing I need. And overall, I think that what I'm doing on YouTube does have this sort of purpose, like it's not that is worth pursuing proper, right? So when I see, for example, this, you see the most radical dimension coming at me, which rarely happens in the first place, because I would expect, especially by starting this channel, I've always been a very reserved person. That's also why I don't talk about myself on the channel. Not because I would have problems, just like, why? Like, does it matter? Like, is this relevant for anyone, first of all, but secondly, even for me? Like, what do I get from that? Probably one day you will see me, you will know who I am, you will read my work. It's, it's okay. But the more I push, like this happens in life, and the more I realize that the most extreme sort of attrition is something that immediately can make you think, oh my god, how many other people are there who have these ideas? And then you realize that they don't stick, or they don't carry out the effort. They don't actually contrast you. They don't resist. They melt away. Of course, the internet has means like blocking or whatever. And again, I have millions of views at this point, and I think over the entire Schwerpunkt experience, I think I banned 100 people, because I have the list here. That I remember I usually ban people if there is plain insults, and very often in general, like they were not directed at me, but coming on my channel, insulting pretty much anyone, unless it's something specifically. Let's say one thing is a criticism, right? Another thing is, again, that shout, that phrenesthetic reaction to, I don't want to hear. I want to pretend that there are no people that support this idea or this group or whatever, this cause. And the best thing you have to do is insulting whoever it is, you get blocked, right? And or I will let actually a rain of sort of counter insult, being poured at you, but that's also not my preferential way, because I don't want to make Schwerpunkt that, right? Just to make an example, like this actually eludes the dichotomy that I illustrated here, but there are some. This is connected also with the theme that usually attracts the extremists. And again, since I'm right-wing, I'm a conservative, and I tell history in a certain way, there are those level fourth estate sort of extremists that comes here and thinks that they can, that automatically think that that's the level of depth, if we can so say, that I'm actually that first of all I share his idea. This is also very strange. How do you go to a person that talks about a certain topic and pretend that they actually think what you do, especially when you see like that you're actually not understanding, you've not even watched a minimal fraction of their content, right? It's very strange to me. First of all, I'm not a follower. This has never been meant to insult my own followers. And just by character, by personality, somebody who likes, I could say the word, but then I would sound too coming too aggressively like that. But I'm just not made for that, right? So in other words, actually, what people think to an extent bores me. Like, it's not that I don't care, but I only like intelligent ideas, right? Because I want to test whether they work and they actually give me more power. And this is the struggle, right? And so that the kind of video that gets more views is predictably like ethnic videos. If you make any political sort of video, you will get immediate backlash. And the reason why I don't do that, it's not like daily, because I have my own very strong political ideas, but it's not fearing that backlash, but the fact that, as I said before, like, if you don't, like, first of all, I made few explicit videos about my political position, and somehow people don't even bother, again, themselves to search about that, about any particular hot topic. It's rare for me not to have covered some of that. So they don't search, but they pretend, again, to be served by this random, just like YouTube habituate or any social media, to have this immediate offer by someone, and then thinking that is for them, and as if they were actually gaining anything from it. My content is completely different. My content is supposed, it is very ambitious in this sense, to have people really saying, okay, there is here so much to learn about history that we all gotta admit we will never know anything about. And so at least there is this guy who consistently every day makes these videos. He may have his own ideas, whatever, but at least he funds this idea with actual historical information and sort of makes sense of it, right? Or at least he tries. He has this idea that he built actually throughout his historical studies, because you can easily see, by the way, how I did not really think the way I do today when I started Schwerpunkt, for example. I mean, I had some fundamentals that remain the same. I'm personally always very distrustful of people who had like they own a particular belief their entire life, and all of a sudden they change it, right? One thing is having, I don't know, a political a take on one specific thing, right? It would surprise you that back in the day, say in 2014, I didn't like Russia in the sense that I, let's say, supported Putin or anything, but I look at what was happening in Ukraine and said, well, after all, I mean, I fell into that they're doing their own interest, it's a rather us we're not doing so, and so I was sort of flirting with that idea. Then I sort of went through things and understood, right? I'm not going to, of course, to explain in this video why I support Ukraine, for example. I've always been very open about this, but I know that, for example, already by making this video, I will have somebody who has absolutely no idea that I covered Ukrainian history in which terms, because they didn't search, they didn't care, they just subscribed because they thought I was making, I don't know, they think that for some strange reason, as if, by the way, they had ever had any education on Ukrainian history, and they didn't copy this sort of, that sort of gang attitude just from, I don't know, because they found themselves in the last couple of years to side with a particular narrative or a particular side of the particular aisle that are all different things, but things are much more complex than they seem. And so, I don't know, you cannot be a right-winger if you support Ukraine, for example. Or they have strange explanations of why you do, without suspecting that, say, somebody may know something better than them, maybe, and just, this is not to be, I'm not a modest person, I've never been, but, knowing how few it takes to know things, it's impossible not to disqualify these people. Right, and it's always the same problem. Like, they don't know, right? It's not even that they're stupid or it's normal, right? To an extent, they're young. Their parents have never habituated them to history. The educational system, of course, barely. So what can you expect, right? But for some reason, they subscribe, and they even think that I'm actually this figure that up to that point, I don't know, must be just something else, right? The devil. And in fact, the funny thing about this is that you get these people that I see as essentially 19th century fourth estate leftist terrorists who actually think that they are right-wingers, and they don't even suspect that I'm imperial Catholic traditionalist because they don't even know what it is. And the entire content that I make is founded on that. And that's the thing that, you see, makes you understand so much about people, because you get knowledgeable about that too. After it happens every time in the same way, and you could easily like dismiss all of this by writing a line of elementary logical explanation. Like you realize that you have to do, unfortunately, with a very, again, diseased world. And I use this term as, I feel for people who have problems in general. Like, I am pretty ruthless. I don't, if I had the power, I would take very, very interesting measures. But I also do so because I think that I understand the evil and the ignorance behind that. That I come to distinguish in a conceptual sense, but that they actually manifest, especially in the lowest fringe that I was talking about, exactly in that correspondence. Right? I used to believe that ignorant people could actually be good, but today I don't believe it anymore, because I fundamentally do not believe that you can achieve, you can make the right thing without having essentially sinned, and so having evolved from a lower condition that could have been apparently just not doing anything wrong, but actually just sitting there and letting things happen. That's also why I make all that narrative about the foretestators. Not to say that I don't know the sense of good foretestators, but there is, of course, there are different. Like today's foretestate is something different, of course, of what it was historically. So there is a lot of thing here. As you know, I don't believe in modernity because I don't think it exists. And I think that the good aspects of our society are always traditional, and not in the regressional sense, but literally in the fact that if, for example, a foretestator can elevate him or herself from a certain condition, they will not be. Maybe they will be third estator. Like this is pretty relatable to many people, but in that sense, they will still fail badly, but they will have been better people than, in a sense, to a certain extent, that they would have been before. And at least there is a way to teach, like the sense of tradition to those who are acquainted, at least, with some fundamentals of what we thought, like the success of our civilization really stemmed from. Right. So I would have not liked to make this considerations in this video, because I wanted to keep it like, yay, we have 20,000, and just keep it friendly. But I realized that I can't let my following grow without saying these things. And actually, when I see it, I would honestly really prefer you to unsubscribe than to think of me of someone I'm not, first of all. But in this sense, it's better a subscriber lost, and even like disliking or even hating me in that sense, than having like a broken following, having an undisciplined, undrilled following, one that does not believe in what I'm saying. Because first of all, it means I would have failed in explaining certain things. And therefore I would be doing things that are not, as I said before, like my objective that is to provide with reality through actual historical information, like to make people aware through the actual moral and scientific method that I use, right? And this can go, you see, that's why I say that there's no channel like mine, because let's be honest here, have you ever heard anyone even discussing this stuff? Because it is, first of all, controversial. Secondly, it really calls for the entire drama that, however, does not produce itself for some reason. Maybe because I sound intimidating, like in the sense that at least I, that I would come at you if I were to be misrepresented or whatever. So this has always been a theme on Schwerpunkt, and it's not going to fall. Like I don't care. I've also envisaged the possibility of my channel being shut down for, as I was saying at the beginning, any reason. And the thing does not upset me. Like I have other things to continue in my life that are more important than this. And of course, I have everything saved, so you don't have to worry if that ends. I would probably come back and re-upload my work. But of course, I don't. I plan just to be that fair. And which ways could I be controversial, right? I don't know. Losing control makes you, as I was exemplifying those sort of extremistic, say, offensive, like being the worst. Possibly, I don't see myself doing that stuff because the more I've made videos, the more control I've had on them, on the content, on the entire community. So I think that this 20,000 subscribers, even though I know that not all of you are exactly like aligned with my ideas, or at least to a certain level of tolerance that makes you see my content as a positive endeavor. Like I think that we can keep on selecting and compacting, right, in the process. By the way, there are some comments that make my day that sound things like, I disagree with you on so many things, but I like your work and what you do, and I see where you're coming from, and I understand that, and so I'm here, like, and I enjoy this, and that's the best, right? It's like saying there is the deeper implication of my content meaning is really understood. And sometimes when I make these videos, this kind of videos, it seems to me that I'm always misaddressing the actual topic. Because, first of all, it would be too vague, at least if we were to start from the beginning of it all. And that's what I usually tend to do, because of course it's very difficult to have a comprehensive explanation of the wall, but it's through these vectors that you can understand where I'm going, right? So this is not, I've introduced recently the seasonal backstage, which is some kind of channel update for, I used to do this, I think, every 100 videos, so it's more or less similar at this rhythm of output, but it's just a bit more, there's just those 4 times a year, so just these tanks are normally, unless I'm discussing something else more theoretical, the way, where the channel is going, how it is going, or whatever, right? So as far as the channel's creation, struggles, successes, etc., like, I don't think we need to talk about them now. At least I used to talk about a lot of things, especially about the beginning of Schwerpunkt that you can find in the aforementioned Is Terrain playlist. Were there any key moments along this path during this journey to 20,000? I avow that I just ask AI to give me sort of points to address, like, because I would never pose myself the point, highlight key moments about this. This is not like I've come this long way, at least to me it seems, but not in the sense that I accomplished too much. When we will be at 100,000, maybe let's get there, and then I can do this more sentimental stuff, right? But there are key moments. Let's say that these years of my life have been particularly relevant for a number of reasons, including Schwerpunkt, including what I've learned here. As you know, there have been some setbacks, some successes. There are all things happening in my life, privately and publicly, that were positive or negative, depending on which ones I went through. I don't know. I began the doctorate with Schwerpunkt, and I finished it years ago already. I've had relationships. I've gotten heartbroken. I had sort of pretty heavy blows in general from the outer side, for reasons that, again, fortunately did not create any major problem in my life. But I don't know. I've always been proud of having being very rude held, but from last year actually I have a problem that it's a very mild one actually, and I've been taking care of that. I hope not going to get any worse over time, but who knows? Nothing you should be worried personally, because I'm actually fine. You listen to that. I'm never sick. I never sneeze, never cough. I'm always more or less vital, unless I start falling asleep towards the end of the video, which happens with my own voice. There are some that there's all the time in which I had to re-upload most of the videos. Let's say there's been this moment of greater patience, even of discouragement. And I can't think of any specific moment on Schwerpunkt that was relevant for this. Again, there's been the war, there's been the pandemic. Like, there were all years in which sort of strange things intertwined. I spent, I think, it was 3 years, almost, like sleeping in the day and working at night. As a matter of fact, it was pretty bizarre. That's also where I got part of that health issue, for sure. So I've traveled, even if you don't see it. Sometimes I pick the old videos and I schedule them for the days in which I'm away. But more or less, I have been here. I have been working at this, and I guess that's the most important thing, the most memorable aspect of it all. Like the fact that I've been doing this and that I don't feel any fatigue. Which I don't know how you receive this. Many of you don't really. Some ask, like, how do you do this every day? But it's mostly referred to how do you know what you do, like, with all these different history videos. But I can tell you, like, sometimes it's been hard with I don't know, one day you don't feel top, you haven't slept, you have a headache or whatever. Sitting here sort of seems like a compass, like a sort of Schwerpunkt. In fact, a sort of, and this is not why the channel is called Schwerpunkt, at least, the term, as you know, kind of derives from the Clausewitzian theory, etc. I've met people through Schwerpunkt, not in person. I have had also people that I know from my everyday life watching my content. There have been great contributors. We've seen, for example, the numismatic series. There's this guy that ships me the ancient coins as a thank, like, and whenever he needs, I don't know, an article, whatever, I'm glad to help. There are some of you who contacted me. I found veterans. I found people asking me about religion, for example, or asking me, of course, about history, but you all have a role in this, and actually I would encourage you to be this is what I always say. Unfortunately, like, now the more time goes on and the more is difficult to actually interact with anyone who seeks interaction, which means that I won't be able to in fact to really answer questions so directly and easily. So I don't ask you really to interact, just by, let's say, commenting just for the sake of it. I know they can be pleasant. I will allow you your comments. Not all of them get allowed for the reasons I explained already in the past, but in the like the best thing you can do is really to come up with some very constructed question, like something I can also a question and answer video for, like, which is not simply like, okay, I understand that I seem like the guy you can ask for specific information that is difficult to find, and so you want to exploit that. I've been there personally with my own mentor back in the day, and yes, from I'm I tell how it is. Of course, I try to avoid like the direct involvement because sometimes, well, it does happen. I don't know the answer, or at least I don't think I can answer in a satisfactory way. It would be just a waste of time, and I can't make yet another history video for that matter. But most of the times it is because really I don't think the question is really going anywhere. Like if you want to know something specific, like you can't search on the internet, it's very easy to find bibliographical references. That's also why the entire story of the sources of citations actually I found very weird, not just because of all the reasons that I've given in multiple videos on the topic, but because it seems to me like if you're that interested, why don't you just, like, it's so easy to find stuff. We are in the digital era, right? Doesn't mean that you have to use Wikipedia. It means that, I mean, even Wikipedia has bibliographies, right? So if you buy just one of those books, you will find probably what you need in the bibliography. And that's how easy it is, as it is. Like, so I can understand more accessible to anyone who has a YouTube account or, has my email, so practically anyone. But that's not how I work. Like, I'm not simply like an answer machine, right? And I've been disappointed that there isn't more historical inquiry, interaction, and whatever. But in fact, part of the reason is also that some questions are beyond like the story issue. Let's say it's mostly just like a source issue or where I can find more information about this, and so this is part of the story. I can't think of. I have actually collaborated at some point. Made a video interview. I've actually made multiple ones. There was one that had to come out in May, and that has from a bigger channel that I thought could provide me with some extra subscription as a consequence. That has not come out. Actually, I will check right now to see if I was bypassed, because I of course I knew what kind of topic it was, but okay, I'm not going to. Okay, well, let's not do it now, because it seems like you don't have my my undivided attention, but that's part of it as well, right? I would like to make more pleasant remarks, by the way, because this sounds like a criticism of you. Naturally, my content is what it is. Doesn't require introductions. It's literally what you see. Like, it never varies in terms of format, and so you know what we're talking about. The lessons learned, still following the AI thing, which is terrible, but you would be surprised how it's extremely useful with tags, right? I can't make the tags of my own scripts, and they will extrapolate them, and I save a lot of time. That's also why I'm doing things very, very quick, but everything is, of course, human revised, and it couldn't be otherwise. For the rest, AI is terrible for anything else. Like, it's just too stupid. Doesn't give you any reliable information or whatever, and at least there would be a lot to tell. And it wouldn't be funny. I think actually the AI is not going to threaten this type of content at all. Paradoxically, I see that in the last couple of years, where AI was sort of presented, everything will change. You remember those psychopaths last year that were saying at this point we will be in full like civil war because everything would be, you wouldn't understand what's real, what's not. Do you see any of this happening? This, by the way, by engineers who literally thought that their machines were actual human babies, right? And we should be, and the worst is that there are these mentally disturbed people that perhaps are attracting other mentally disturbed people. I think that's part of the reason how great part of the more complex story, however, works. Sharing lessons learned. Oh, AI, you really don't have any better question, have? Well, I didn't give so much prompts about my type of content because, it would literally take this long, the entire script of this video to do any of this. And the machine is too stupid to summarize anyway. In any case, and I tried, by the way, through the scripts. That was very revealing. In any case, reflect on what you've learned during your journey so far. Well, I said enough. Share tips, strategies, or insights that help you grow as a channel and an audience. Well, another unpleasant thing that I can actually say is that, again, the impression of like all these years is that people are not really interested in the historical content as opposed to what I'm doing. That, again, I don't understand because, as I said, my entire point is the historical content, right? It's not to say that people come here just to know about what I do. They, of course, come here for the historical content, but they're mostly interested in saying what I think and why about that. Rather, and this would be okay as well if history paradoxically didn't slide in the background in the process. Like, all these videos I make every day for hours talking about specific historical topics are never me, right? It's history, right? It's the actual information that I provide you with. For example, yesterday I made that video about one of the few videos in which I praise I would say the third estate at least, the laboratories in early medieval times. Right, and that was not even as I said, was a very broad statement that, however, as substantial as it is, because it's not broad in the sense that if it's a broad statement, it's not accurate, right? Actually, part of the historical glory is to be objective and accurate in that sense. But you see, I don't know how, at least successfully, this message is received, right? Because I have, of all these hundreds of people who watch my videos every day, at least the new videos that I make every day, I have thousands at this point of views every day overall. I do not talk, right? And the few ones who do not really focus too much on the actual concept, right? It can be that it makes them think about other historical topics and asking about them or this kind of stuff. But the reason why I sit here for a couple of hours, like talking about one specific topic, is not me broadcasting myself like the old YouTube. I wish at least that YouTube was still about broadcasting yourself as a guide, say, policy in a sense. But I mean, it's rather the fact that I'm fascinated also personally, and you can appreciate that. That's why that can be at least relevant. With that particular historical concept, right? And again, some people at least have come to, again, and I see this being very impersonal because either it happened outside of YouTube or on Reddit, for example, or sometimes even from the questions I receive, etc., and the few interactions that overall I get, that people are more interested like in why I think that, as opposed to focus on the historical evidence. And that's the thing that disconcerts me the most. Even in fact, the story of the citations of why don't you provide with a bibliography or whatever, are a sidebar of this. Like, it's not just that they could find their own information and actually evaluating whether this is correct or not. Nobody does this. This is insane, right? You see, and sometimes the topics are, as I said, very easy to find, even in a superficial sense on the internet. And yes, I do use a pretty nourished amount of sources of, primary and historiographical alike, but rather than fixating on where I find information, like why, say, the question is this, like, why are you not, in that sense, because at least this comes with a lot of distrust from the other side, why are you not qualified then to find out? Because it's simple information. I mean, it can be criticized that if you don't get that this is original and it's an original synthesis, even more specifically. So I can be simply a person who knows a lot about a given topic and or that has the capacity like of addressing it on a basis of the same, say, in any case, historiographical knowledge, but where do you learn things of anyway? And in fact, this comes mostly for videos that seem to be very popularly, let's say, the pseudo-intellectual side of the story is attracted to. For example, Byzantine history. Like, there are a bunch of people who think that being fascinated with Byzantine history and at least acting as if they were knowledgeable in it has any connection with their level of broader knowledge. Like, it's from decades ago that scholars were faking hypocritically to be now rediscovering Byzantine history because it's such a topic. It really shows that you're so updated historiographically. Today we don't do it that anymore. I mean, I make so many videos about so many different things that are also so very important, and actually even more important than these other topics, and not getting any attention towards those. Why? Because again, there is this snobbish sense of, I don't know, that's not a topic that you consider. Whereas it's incredibly weird. I found a lot of a lot of Western self-sabotaging and sometimes not much anti-Western attitudes. There is something here and there, but at least my content is most evidently Western-based. Also a sense of pride and confidence that I think it's also making substantial part of the reason why many of you follow me, right? So, but there is always that kind of misunderstanding. Again, lots of people think that I'm here because I'm inherently, again, passively, aggressively criticizing the West. No, that's you. Like, it, I don't know. If you do that, you're not a Westerner by definition, because it means that you're already living under superstition, because you think that you're not enough to control your own existence, and so you have to blame somebody else, scapegoating. This is not what this channel is about. Like, the entire paradigm denies what you're, and if you don't get that, right, that's the disappointing part for me. That, of course, is also on me. I feel it. I am the one speaking. I'm the one that perhaps gives too much for granted. I mean, at least I did go to certain places in a metaphorical sense that, of course, allow me to be confident about what I'm talking about, that make me sure that what I'm doing is fine, and that it's, generally speaking, the right thing to do. This may not be evident to many people. And so, actually, this is the first time I think I addressed this specific idea I'm about to say, that is, especially if you disagree with my general point, why don't you just, again, not necessarily listening to my content, but why don't you reflect on what you learned from this? Like, why do you think that I do this? Especially all the narratives that usually these people use to for their own agenda are not shared by me, right? There is all an idea that, again, as the one I was saying before, that if you are, I don't know, of a certain side of the aisle, you should be like, as if the population is split in 50%, in one way or another. So on every single political, cultural, historical issue, you have to be exactly that. Not even starting to districate the net. And also, it must be pretty embarrassing to live in a world like that, because, of course, every time you meet someone, you will find out that they're actually not believing the same thing you do. And this is also completely normal. But it's also possible in many ways to be under a broader, for example, traditional umbrella, as far as at least you accept a certain order of thinking, of hierarchy as well, right? But understand that it's easier. Perhaps YouTube as well pushes for extremism, in a sense. At least the kind of extremism that catches the attention of quickly, right? And so that is not actually a very intelligent form of extreme idea. I have very extreme ideas, but not the kind of extreme that people can guess what it actually even is or means. So that's part of the story. I've also learned, as I was saying before, that therefore historical interest, I think, is very secondary for most people that actually follow me. It shouldn't be like that, right? And I can say, like, and I place this on me, I could be much more, let's say, theoretic. I could put together many ideas and sort of articulating a broader theory, but I don't think that's useful. I don't even think it's realistic, because if we start from the assumption that we are sinful, like every kind of idea can't but be improved constantly, and so I would never stop to that only. So there is obviously a direction which should be the one of the truth, but you cannot understand which direction that is until you follow the indications step by step into this enormous substance that revolves around the truth that you have to go through, right? That's why I make all this history content. And of course, there are some topics that are more popular than others, as I was saying before, and I find it, again, in part disappointing, because I understand the broader cultural, popular, and sort of less relevant reasons of the role for which you may be clicking on one video rather than another. In some cases, they are justified. Like, it's not again, there is anything wrong in this sense, but I would say this much, that it seems to me, again, that the pattern is too predictable, right? For example, I don't know, whenever I make videos about Christian history, there are less people watching, which is, you can't even say you don't see the reason. Obviously, we live in a largely, say, non-religious reality. At least there is an incredible lack of standards as far as historical religious awareness is concerned, and I don't know how many liberals follow me, but this does stem from that side of the aisle, meaning that there are also some, again, of those aforementioned nationalist socialists that tend to, I don't know, despise Christianity, for example, as a Jewish creation, and the similar things. And actually, I'm collecting, just for the record, all the anti-Judaic, because anti-Semitic really doesn't mean anything, anti-Judaic comments that I can find. This is also pretty weird to me. It's not a very weird thing. Like, it's not like I don't understand why people come up with these ideas. It's just knowing the history of the Jewish question and everything. You literally say you know why these people believe these things, but you know them for being, let's say, devoid of the foundation that they claim to actually have. It's mostly like, again, a deficit in traditional awareness. It's not about praising one people or another. This is not even to say that you shouldn't have antipathies or any kind. That would be stupid as well. But that's, you see, the level, the sort of the edge that they don't kind of get. This is, for example, let's start from the word anti-Semitic. I've never received like a you see, I have all these anti-Jewish comments that of course get regularly, like that means ban, by the way, in case you didn't know, and I'm very open about this, and I'm collecting them exactly for this purpose. But let's say anti-Semitic stands, as you know, for it's an improper approximation that should refer to the fact that it's the entire Semitic background that would have a problem, all right, as opposed mostly to the Indo-European one, etc. Okay, all these insults, like they're never, for example, addressed towards other Semitic peoples like the Arabs, for example. Right? I've never ever had an insult, and this is not even to say, think about 9/11, think about the general, think about all the jokes about, this coming with, dark humor, etc. And actual hatred, and of course intolerance, enmity, cultural distance, etc. There's all the issues of Islam. Many of you are, let's say, adverse to Islam because I see what videos you watch. Schwerpunkt. The YouTube analytics does allow you to check that, but I have all these anti-Jewish comments, and I don't have any other hate, or like you understand that the people who make these comments, first of all, come from an incredibly narrow side of the cultural spectrum that you can immediately spot, because they never complain about any other people except those. Like, it's not to say, like, beware of, I don't know, there are all the ways of being racist that you want, or say being against any particular group. It's only that. When there are also enormous macroscopic threats from so many different movements, ideas, those never come around. Even those that, of course, in this case, like mostly National Socialist individual would perceive as an actual threat. But I never received those. Like, I don't receive the same amount. I never received, and this is the point, any kind of things like, I don't know, against the immigrants, right? They tell me, why don't you talk about the Kalergi plan? Or why don't you, like, this kind of stuff, but they never go against, they never go ahead with actual insults towards, then in that case there was an anti-Jewish conspiracy theory, but mixed with the idea of black mixing and all this stuff. And again, I never receive, let's say, insults towards races. It just, there are grossly explicit insults against the Jews, and none of the rest. Which, if you think about it in any perspective, doesn't make any sense, right? If you have a minimal of integrity, even if you were consistent with hating any specific group, the reason why you cross out, and this is a statistical principle because I have, again, received millions of views and thousands of comments, like, this does stand out, and it's mind-blowing, and it's more than else, it's not just creepy, but it of course insane, but it's just incredibly dumb, right? There are actual people, actual human beings that actually make their own life about actually hating actually Jewish people. Like, this is like, in any historical perspective, and these are the same ones that say, until my 30s I didn't know what the Jewish question was, and they try to make you think that like, they know something that you don't, as if literally you hadn't learned what the entire issue is. And even if you phrase this like this, they must think that what you think is actually what they have told you to think. Like, you can't have, like, an autonomous, independent education with, I don't know, tens of thousands of books and just a general culture. But no, it must be just that you're part of the conspiracy, right? Or that you are just naive, and that they don't. That depends on how much they care about getting your own friendship in this sense. And unfortunately, I do have, as a lesson learned, that again, there are lots of people who are just alone. They feel alone, and they must sort of, on the internet, they can be weird and they have nothing to lose and whatever, but they are sort of very, very strangely obsessed and disturbed. And they don't understand that you can be against this or that group normally as a human being, but you should at least provide with a reason that is an actual reason to it. And that's also very disturbing to me, because you see, these are all things that don't make me gain great faith in humanity. And then when you wonder why I'm so harsh in many videos, it's not just because of the need of discipline and just in straightening up the ranks, etc. But it's because I'm referring specifically to these human cases that are really, really fascinating to analyze. And this is the thing that I always say, like in tradition, and I'm talking about the highest levels of Indo-European tradition. If you think there is somebody over you, it means that you are admitting that the person is superior to you. So ipso facto, any allegedly, racially pure individual who thinks that, there is a racial inferior individual that is over them, basically, and that's why I say that it's an anti-traditional, anti-ancien regime, nationalist and or socialist fourth estater ideology. Like, they are ipso facto not traditionalist. Like, European tradition does not metaphysically conceive, the entire theology of Catholicism does not conceive this possibility, right? If you are below, you are inferior. Point. End of the story. So if you're any person who's complaining about this terrible conspiracy theory about anyone, it can be the state, it can be the Americans, it can be the Jews, it can be whoever any lesser person fails against individually, culturally, wherever. It's in itself the declaration that these people are lesser people, and we must start from this. I don't think there can be any civilization that can flourish, at least they've never seen it in history, when people thought that there was somebody over them that was, crushing the entire system, and these people wouldn't actually do anything about it, at least because if they had power, they would at least take over and prove that they were. And instead, here we're talking about, again, people of the 21st century literally having no other power but tweeting or commenting wherever, that are sort of the actual creepy snake of rotting the roots of civilization by pretending that since they are less like bolden like kind of individuals, they can't have any other space, room, and an accomplishment just by their own understanding of themselves in this world, right? So that's why on Schwerpunkt we do not tolerate any of this, because this is not about defending any group or another. Even if in historical perspective you must, but this is first and foremost a metaphysical theological principle, and you cannot afford to contravene it unless you want to be treated for what you are, of course. And so it's actually a great pleasure to epurate the channel from this spam. Now, what else? So many lessons learned actually from this experience, mostly sociological, psychological ones, right? I until you start talking about these things, you don't get how people, and the fascinating thing is that they burn, right? When you say these things, they sort of fear like that they want to eat their own liver, and that they so I don't know what's the term in English, but they're so, yes, I know the term be hard, like, but let's not get too much in the details of all of it. And they kind of, like, while I am amused by this to a certain extent, they become angry, right? And that's also in tradition one of the first indicators of failure in self-actualization. That sort of, diagnoses pretty clearly what is going on there, and it's a pure pleasure again to affirm oneself on these individuals. on YouTube. I should use a bit more of mosquito traps in this sense. More videos about the slaughter of Russian soldiers in Ukraine. More kind of interesting insights that have nothing to do with whether even the war is won or lost or all these kind of things. This is just about triggering, that whoever is attracted to that, you can't select, you can't eliminate. And this also tells you how few I care about having more subscribers of that kind, of course. Even though, admittedly, I'm glad that they make me, at least have some revenue more here and there. The funniest thing is that sometimes I have had people who followed me for years and they literally didn't know. And then all of a sudden they listen to the, 6 second beyond the 5 that they usually listen to, but that they think that I was up to that point a sort of fatherly, brotherly figure of some sort. And again, how do you categorize these human types? What else? Here, let's look at some video to watch, some comment. Well, I don't know. And again, not having the patience to study my content. That's the other thing. There is this other approach. People come and say, "Oh, I look at this channel. I was so excited. I saw all these videos, but I don't know. I found out there was political background. Where's my political background? To me, political background means I don't know. I actually am part of this party, or I support this political figure, or I don't know. I believe in this political doctrine, and whatever." That to me means being political. This is to me to say, I don't know, I support Trump over Biden, for example, or I don't know, I'm a socialist, or this kind of things, and I'm even open about these were just examples. For example, I do think that Trump, in a political sense, is surely better than Biden. I have no problem. You see, many people would think that they would do similar things with what they do with my channel or other people's channel, other political figures or other figures in general, by projecting on politicians what they think these politicians mean. What they don't realize that they let themselves be manipulated actually by their own fake wishful thinking. Why do I like politically speaking, Trump over Biden? Not because I like Trump, actually. I presume many Americans, they're wondering why they have these two people running for president, but because at least in perspective between the two, of course, that there is so much variable there. But does this have to do with, I don't know, I think that Trump will change the actual foreign policy, that, I don't know, he will make Putin win, or this kind of course not. If you think that, you're just mentally feeble. You let yourself be manipulated. It's not a matter of personal opinion, right? We have given too much to people in terms of faith towards their own opinion. We should teach people that having an opinion has nothing to do with it having any trace of value in itself. Until people understand this concept, and until they are presented with the realization that you cannot go on in life without actual structured high professional knowledge, you cannot count. You actually don't, just per se. It's something that you must have to teach yourself, because the world will slap you in the face anyway, and everybody can be wrong, by the way, about everything. But we should be talking about within adults, and we know that there are always morons around, but it's not like we can make things better also by having just a bit more of control. And that's what people don't get. They start getting hysterical every time they hear something that does not align with it's cognitive dissonance in many ways. It's just this forcing sometimes, even as I said before, what you say into their own sort of strange perception of it. And it is really that disappointing. I've been learning all these bad and sad stories that I must talk to you about, because if you're new on here and you think that I'm just one of those other garbage pseudo history channels, just know that this is not a place where you should be in the first place. Again, you're better out of here. I literally don't care about you subscribing or watching anything or making me get like even one cent more. I do not care anything about this, and I will keep insulting. I don't care. And this is how it should be going on, and it will. So again, I must stop at some point of things I've learned on this channel, because they're so weird. And again, you would probably not believe this, but of course I get a minimal amount of criticism, and an incredibly vanilla one, right? Nobody stops saying like, I don't know, I disagree with you for this reason. Like, please do it, because I don't have anyone. Like, normally, especially as a historian, like I come here and say, well, maybe there is someone who disagrees with what I say historically because they know more than me historically, right? This is not a compliment to myself. Like, it doesn't literally take anything to know history better than the average person. The point is, it stops there, right? It's mostly an emotional thing. It's mostly like feeling the need of, being threatened in some way and feeling like, I don't know, this guy doesn't actually go right more than beyond that, and I don't even know how to express disappointment, of course. Let's pass to something more propositive, but again, I hope that there will be a massive drop in subscribers. No, not really. The other interesting thing is that the channel always grew. Like, it was never a time in which it lost subscribers. In a day it could happen. Like, if I got a few subscribers, I think it's almost 2 years that I don't get to 0 or below, right? Because it would happen at some point, but it's always been otherwise, and those were exceptions. Like, it happened a handful of times, I think. In all these years, it always grew. It steadily grew, and actually, the more I use again this kind of content, this provocation, as a bit the video explained, the way of the left hand, right, where the fire of death blazes. You need to sacrifice some elements to purify a system, and at least when they're opposed to you and that they don't follow like in line, because we live in a fallen world, and so we need to do this as always. But let's pass to something a bit nicer, like preview upcoming content. So this is also yet another huge topic. I already discussed the cycle at some point, and I can only say that I have increased. I told you, like, I've increased the efficiency which I make videos. I have lots of already prepared ones, which allows me to also create many more randomly, let's say, many more what I call specials, right? So videos that are the topics of which are not really sorted out randomly, but that I choose deliberately. And this came on top of other considerations regarding the gaps that were starting to form. For example, part of the reason why I'm addressing contemporary warfare now, in general, will be the fact that, in fact, these political misunderstandings, right? If, say, I don't know, that there are people who, again, hate this or that country, this or that political side of the aisle. And if, of course, I take position as well, but the point being that if I say talk about, I don't know, the American Civil War or the Second World War, etc., these are especially for a U.S. audience that constitutes the majority of the world, like the sort of the hottest topics, right? If somebody's pissed off by something, I don't know, I was talking about, for example, the U.S. Army last summer, and I was explaining after the Mexican War how things were preluding, at least also in terms of strategic thinking regarding the possibility of the civil war that would have happened, were broken out. And I was talking about the Anaconda plan and all this stuff, and literally it was a purely neutral video. It was discussing in an all-comprehensive American perspective how like things would have worked, what particular politicians were thinking about that. Of course, there had to be the imbecile who came around saying, this is just a Yankee perspective. Why and how? How do you think that, first of all, I don't know that this is not the Yankee perspective? Like, why do you think that other people are so undereducated as much as you are that you have to feel bad because your little flag is not being waved, and nobody even said anything against it in that way? Like, it's so childish. Like, believe me, there is no greater frustration. I'm an incredibly intolerant person for that matter. Like, I just it's not that I don't know how to deal with things, but I just don't want to waste time for them, right? So when you have this sort of content, like I make all this content, like things that you have never heard of, not even about your own country, in that way I'm presenting it to you. And if this is the most intelligent thing you have to say, it's obvious that I'm going to I don't remember whether I blocked that person or not. I don't care. I usually don't block people who say this. I just let the comment stay, and it runs out of 1 month if I don't approve it, so that the person actually believes that it's there, and it disappears. There's the kind of type that again is there is a level of femininity in this. Like, if you think that you have to be flattered, it's because you feel insecure, you feel weak. How do you explain that? Right? Again, I don't ask to be flattered. I just ask to, okay, I'm making a point in a strategical sense, in a military sense, and what you have to think is that I'm not talking about, I don't know, what would have become the Confederate perspective. What that in that topic had literally nothing to do with it. I'm not bothered by a lack of attention. That's why I'm not bothered by 20,000 subscribers after 2,000 videos. I appreciate each and every one of them. What I'm frustrated by is stupidity. And I think this is pretty universal, but of course, when you have sort of a stronger ego or something, like you get ever more intolerant. And yes, I can frankly say that I can do without single elements, without blocking, without censoring, whatever. Like, if there is no censor, of course, of sort, in the sense that this is just a function that you can use or not, and if you have a problem, just create your own YouTube channel or your own site. Like, you live in a free country, in spite of what you think, and or at least you can make still much more than being so in fact irrelevant in the broader picture. And the interesting thing is that, of course, my videos are going to stay, right? So people watch them, and I get this overwhelming support overall. I don't, again, get any kind of more articulated criticism. I don't get any historical explanation. I don't get, and it can be boring as well. And whichever has more than 2 lines of explanation in a comment is just taking a complete tangent of like things that, like comparing apples to oranges. And actually, Schwerpunkt, as you know, is based exactly on this, in making history objective, in the sense that you can value the exact say merit, like the individual issues, with the same meter, right? Not saying, but what about that? Yeah, what about that? Right? When you understand what that is, you know that that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, or that if it does, it's maybe saying the opposite of what you thought it does. And since other people know this, this is broadly recognized, and I don't need, again, to quote every single thing every step of the way, it's obvious that I'm not even going to take the thing into consideration. That's the guide of my policy, right? There is literally no other way. It's that simple, right? And again, the increasing issue here is that I perceive an increasing paranoia deriving from, oh my god, they're hiding us things that are not letting us tell this stuff. Like, who is? Where? And why especially aren't you enough as a person to achieve what you want? In tradition, that's the first thing that matters. But tradition, of course, is an optional for, apparently, at least for many people. And regarding the new content, again, I will probably increase, again, the modern contemporary history, especially warfare, right? That's what I actually care about the most. I really have to cover some milestones in modern contemporary warfare that will allow us at some point to expand on further. That's how Schwerpunkt was built, as you know, also for the medieval side, that it is the most voluminous. Actually, there are so many gaps. Like, I still have to cover some of the most important topics in the Middle Ages. And it's sort of weird that maybe I have, I don't know, 10 videos about the same topic, and then there is another even more important one that I haven't covered. This is admittedly the cycle's fault, and of course it's my fault as well, because I chose the content previously, the topics and all. But it also happens due to the fact of the cyclicity of it all. Like, what we don't cover at the beginning, we'll cover later at some point, so it's not so strange after all. I'm not going to restructure the cycle. I think that through the specials we can insert really what we need when we need it. I think that also, like, some branches of the cycle, as you know, are going to run out, and so I've already made substitution. We'll talk a bit more about medieval warfare in that case, but I plan on doing, like, some integrating some other content that I don't know until the branch dies out, sort of. We'll have to see step by step. But surely we're gonna have more about anything from Renaissance to contemporary warfare without any problem, right? There may be new series. I may resume Prince Eugen's one. As you know, back in the day, for the more affectionate, say, more longly and oldly affectionate followers, I made in 2021 a series about Prince Eugen, Prince Eugene of Savoy. And it was actually pretty interesting. Lots of people watched it, but I decided to suspend it. And we have to really come back on it anyway with much better content and everything made in a much better fashion. That would be an idea. That would be a series, so it would be perhaps a bit more than a special in that regard. That may follow some series pattern, but it's usually something I don't need to follow a series for, in fact. That's one thing I could do. We have to resume the traditional religious content one, but I also have to be in the mood somehow, because it requires all some sort of mystical background I have to refuel every once in a while. Surely we have really now a lot of stuff. Also, regarding medieval warfare strictly meant, like, we're gonna make a lot of stuff that I hope you're gonna enjoy thoroughly. We're gonna get into some much more like thematic issues, single wars, single units, like single characters as well. That's a thing that we began accidentally, almost, with Vlad Cepes, then Conrad of Montferrat. We made something also about Edward I. There is room for this kind of stuff, and it's much better than we thinking. Like in months, I haven't. I temporarily suspended the regional series, but we'll come back with it more or less the same format. Just now the specials are sort of even more interesting than that. Those are also easy, good content people like to watch because of the ethno-nationalist reasons mostly, unfortunately. But it's part of it. It shouldn't be all of it. That's what I mean. Of course, the Schwerpunkt's theory has sort of refined. By the way, I should come back on von Clausewitz von Kriege. Honestly, I abandoned it, not in the sense that I don't want to make it anymore at all. Actually, I always feel like now like I should be coming back on it. We had surpassed the 3/4 of the von Kriege, right? But you, for some reason, don't watch it because you want pictures, I guess. And that series actually reveals the best of my channel, literally the Clausewitzian theory. And again, the point of this of Schwerpunkt is that if you don't understand the military history, the art of war, the strategical culture behind this all, you cannot understand the meaning of the entire channel. Again, you probably came across my content randomly. I think this is just like the umpteenth, again, historical entertainment. It has nothing to do with that, just for the record. And it's never supposed to be. The whole thing is about von Clausewitz, what this means as an instrument that also I developed for me to study warfare in my work. That's which is what I do specifically. Like, so it's more serious than it sounds. And again, if you don't grasp that either, like, you're not going to have a great time in Schwerpunkt. And again, I to some extent I hate to say it, but this is the kind of channel that doesn't, again, care also about progressed opinions when they're flowed, right? So if, especially at this point, we made so many videos, you come here and still haven't watched them, or you're not aware of my work, I understand that, but you're not going to go very far until you do, in general, even in the actual content consumption. If you come here just to watch a couple of videos because, oh, look, it's my country, it's talking about me, you're getting nothing out of this. You could literally become richer just by listening to all what I have to say about those very topics. But you, of course, you won't, because you're not here for that. You're just in for the basic, like, animal instinct thing, and then it burns away, and you're going to eat some Cheetos, and that's how it's going to end, right? That you're not going to follow me anymore. Well, the channel is not designed for that. So if it happens to you to be like that, just go away again. This is not the content for you. We're both better off like that. As I said before, I could start actually criticizing specific content. That's an idea, but I should pick the right one, because I'm not entirely sure which one it could be. Now, especially the channel is slightly larger, I may receive a response, and therefore people could follow me. It's a strategy, right? I'm mostly toying with that for that reason. As you know, I have criticized at some point, I always forget that guy's name, that Australian guy who makes LARPing, he's not antipathetic, but it's just some things I had to criticize there about medieval tactics that is not his field, especially. It's perfectly fine. The same goes for Metatrip. Right? It's not that I hate these people at all, but as I said at the beginning, like, there are ways and ways to tell history, and if you have to do it with a bit more of an effort. And unless you want to see people like me taking advantage of the thing, obviously. So that's a strategy, and I may be planning this in a more like we have to try. Let's see what happens. I feel I'm actually very competitive, unlike what I said before. I just tend to avoid confrontation if I can't make things better without, but because that's often like a waste of time. But I'm actually very competitive, so I'm mostly competitive with myself. So that's a way to excite the second element of the Clausewitz in Trinity, the gambler, the military one, in fact. I can't think any particular type. We will probably be seeing more military historical specials, right? And specials are precious because technically I don't have. Well, honestly, I would have an infinity of them, just like for the rest of the content. I mean, let's be honest. I will never leave long enough to finish it. Right, with the same level of freshness and cyclicity and originality, I simply will not leave long enough to finish this. I will, by that point, maybe I could arrive towards 100 years old, but I wouldn't be in the condition of talking about this, and I don't think that we will be here in the first place to find out. But literally, like at the same rate and pace what I have for most of the cycle is still valid for other 60 years or so. And this is without considering basically like other 100 times more things that I could find out to do still about military history. So that's how locked and loaded we are, right? And that's the interesting aspect of the story. In my opinion, that is very exciting. Regarding collaborations, well, I don't know, I could be open to interviews. Like, I don't want to be, again, very self-complimentary, but it's obvious that if the channel keeps growing, somebody will want to interact more often with me. Again, I've been asked once by the Russian television to participate to a documentary on the Mamluks, and I refused. Another time, again, like different things happen. Different people approached, right? And over time, right, they gave me, once they gave me a little job, a review that, that there was a disproportionate compensation, of which I was, of course, glad of. But it was mostly like there were projects going on, even about TV series. Another TV series from the Balkans contacted me. Another guy wanted to make me something in Brazil. Do something about, I don't remember even what it was, but it was not strictly military history in the latter case. In the Balkan case it was, but it also was not for me. At least I made too violent things, and I literally told them that the content was too childish, because they wanted to make battles like Kosovo Polia with some guys eventually retreating from the field, and the day after, from the Christian side, just okay. Well, now there's a new adventure somewhere, like as if after a major battle of that level of brutality. By the way, you hadn't seen like the enormous devastation. They mix magic in it. They want to make something. I don't know how it ended. I even stopped checking that. Also because at that point I was not in the mood. The sense of it all is that they wanted to make something that seemed like for teenagers. They even told me it was something like that, but it literally seemed like for people who do reenactment and want to use magic. Like the worst thing, as I said at the beginning. Yeah, as one of my commenters said, feminism, say the fiction is feminism confirmed. Yeah, I can testify to that. No, of course, like not all fiction. It depends what it contains. Like if it's archetypal stuff, it's good. But if it's cheap, even along an archetypal line, it's mostly because you can't make yourself more knowledgeable about reality and the same history. And so the best fiction is the historical one, yes, but when it's well done, right? Not when it's just twisted for the mentally disadvantaged. Let's put it in this way. So interactive elements. Consider incorporating interactive elements such as yes, Q&A sessions. This I do without the AI telling me. Polls or surveys to gather feedback. I know that I hate you. I couldn't molest and harass you. I confess that I sort of thought, right? This is a deep confession coming from the bottom of my heart. Like I thought I could send you like polls or surveys or whatever to ask what you wanted to hear more or whatever, but you're always free to do it in any ways. And of course I would have never done it because it seemed like too lame. This challenges or games to engage with your audience. I thought about this too. I thought about especially some tactical games. I think it would be a disaster because it's a serious thing, and given the level of engagement that I was telling before, I don't think that it would end particularly well. But given that I would provide eventually the explanation to the problems, etc., why not? I could do that. It would be an interesting exercise, but I would like to talk more about von Clausewitz, about Jomini. Some of you asked me about the latter. Naturally, I'm pretty disappointed when you come around and say, rather than talking more about von Clausewitz, talk about Jomini. Well, if you had watched my Von Kriege series, I would understand it also because I often talk about Jomini. But some people ask me, what does you talk about Sun Tzu? Yeah, right. Because, everybody knows that, a channel that made a, reading and commenting of basically the work of somebody with the level of development of the Hegelian philosophy of the 19th century can be absolutely paralleled with somebody who makes a list of anecdotes the time of Pythagoras. That's exactly what you wanna exactly compare, because civilization doesn't matter anything, and some idiot and the fact it was successful with you would actually really ring an alarm bell there. Told you that Sun Tzu is just deep wisdom. You will understand war. You will win, and you will be an economic genius because you know the strategy and how people are. How to say this? Again, there's no way to say it without being banned from YouTube. So that's also unfortunate. Personalized shoutouts or acknowledgements, no, but the most perspicacious of you will have already realized I inserted subscriptions, which, and I'm very blunt about this, there is nothing to gain from that. Like you pay, I don't remember how much is it, $2 I think a month, and you get some badges. I had actually a nice idea. It's about some eagle, like from the younger one to we're talking about the imperial eagle here, developing. The longer you stay, you are a member. You have some special stickers, things like that I prepared in theme with Schwerpunkts. Symbolism, meaning, and so on. You have crosses, eagles, like other symbols from traditional doctrine, and that's it. It's basically just, if you want to support me for doing this, it's okay. As I said before, I don't really do it for the money, but if you say that helps anyway, so it's just an incentive for me, of course, to be here, to be to gain further support. It's not much, in fact, but it can help. Like if you think that this is a good way, like I made it low exactly because there is no thing like, I don't know, for members only sort of content. Everything is public always, and so it's just like to get some euro more, but it's not really an issue. I have some income now. It's not much, honestly, but I also have a few views, and actually considering the wall, it's not too few either. Like I get, I understand what I get on the basis of the views. Like I think it's fair. After all, I always complain that we don't earn actually how much we should. Of course, YouTube subtracts a pretty large amount from the actual income, but overall it's not that bad, and that's the reason why if Schwerpunkt grows, we're gonna get somewhere with this anyway. Yeah, I don't plan to invite any guest here. I have pretty primitive means, by the way, just to record everything. The video is too complicated. But I could. I was thinking about one specific person, but actually more, but one in particular. Some Aspergic connection, I must tell it. But it was just an idea, right? And I will make more Aspergic content before that ever happens, and I have some good reason to think, however, that would be a nice choice. Behind the scenes content, yeah, I'm actually changing apartment. I'm going to leave like 300 meters away from here. It's just my whole another house that we have, and that's much bigger than this one. This is sort of like, okay, there's no need to offer the information. I like my abodes, but I don't know when. I don't know. I don't think I need to record anything, but I will change a bit my life, and who knows? Maybe I'm interested in showing my library, my study, let's say the general ambience in which I work. It could be an idea, but I don't think there is any sort of need for that behind the scene thing. Like, I make the Schwerpunkt backstage as far as how it's going and all this kind of stuff. Personal anecdotes. No, I told you too many before. Call to action. End the video with a call to action. CTA, such as encouraging viewers to subscribe, comment, like, or share the video with others, which I always do at the end of every video. But I guess this one is relevant to discuss it further because, again, with 20,000 subscribers, we have a pretty large base. And this is enough to share more, to really reach out more easily. The interesting thing about the subscribers right now is that they come much more easily in an autonomous way, right? One thing is sharing, etc., but there is a lot of sharing behind this. I understand. I mean, I'm talking from my side. I don't share. I don't really. I can't really find like an optimal way of doing so. But the sense is that, of course, the more we are, and the likelier it is that we are going to, let's say, open further this. The pool, the access, and this kind of stuff. So I don't really know how you share. I see the sites where you share this. I could look at it actually from the stats here, because YouTube stats are part of the reason, as I always say, why I started a YouTube channel in the first place. Not about caring people's business, but the external views are very poor, telling the truth, and they haven't been going particularly up. Actually, I'm somewhat disappointed by how few we make in general. External, here we see, well, 2,000 views in 1 month, which is surely Google at top. Yes, Google search makes 1,300 for it. And it accounts for oh my god, it's really long. From Twitter, yeah, because it's 54 views. Well, it's not a lot considering I share the video when I make it. Like 1 month, this is barely 2 views per video, because this is in 28 days, not 30, 31, whatever. YouTube calculates the thing like this. Then we have 24 on Discord, which apparently did not generate any comparable thing here. On Bing, apparently people have high watch length, but it's just 14 views shared. Then we have Facebook. Well, it's not much at all. Too few. I don't know how. And again, the Google search is actually very, very important because it shows that my videos are going to be found out there. I actually created a site. I think it was April, that hasn't been how you say that in English? It's not been sensed by Google yet, and as such, it does not figure in the Google results. It wasn't indexed. This is what I want to say. It's a pity because I had this idea of I don't know how to run a site, especially in a graphical sense, with over 2,000 videos. But I was doing something interesting that was also disappointing, as I said before, like putting the transcript in the AI and having this brief description that however contains some keyword and makes sense, and to post this together with the video link. There is the site. I think I also inserted the link here on the YouTube first page or something like that. But it's not been indexed, and so nobody finds it. And so nobody, also from Google, can find that out. I've tried always to, not literally always, but for example, to provide the playlist description with some extra name. It doesn't seem to have worked, and in any case, it takes a long time. So I literally don't know whether this is a good idea or not. It could take forever. It's complicated because apparently YouTube tags do not really work too much. Like they are just there for a random connection, or at least they work. That they're better. It's better having them than not. I'm not talking the tags in the video description in the video. Okay, no, it's not necessary to digress on the technicalities, but I have to try that last thing of seeing whether there's any relevance in digitalizing some script to get the tags from and to insert it somewhere, because it's it doesn't seem to give you extra views, and you see it more. See it easily through the analytics, whether there is a sudden surge in views or something. What else? Giveaways or contests? Nah, that's humor and lighthearted moments. I can't think of a suitable joke right now, but we make our own sort of not dark, but somehow heavy humor about other things. And in this sense, I don't know. You see, these videos always come with that load in which I say, oh my god, I will finally talk for 2 hours and a half without having to stay to any script, to check any information, to be any kind of more precise. And then I think like I can't talk about so many things. And then instead I, always feel like falling short of the expectation. Before I was
pumped up because of the criticism, because of the ideology, before all this stuff. Again, that's also important to be told. In this videos, I would better think about which kind of content I could make for what kind of subject, what kind of topics. But again, I don't see that vibe. So I don't even technically know how long can this how long will it take before this channel gets at least a decent amount of views. I don't plan, as I said, to change the format, but I noticed that little acceleration, as I was saying before, things are going slightly faster than they ever did historically. And as a consequence, I think that we can't really complain more than much. Like when we look at things in perspective, like in the previous years we weren't here. It's just literally from last year that we started taking off, and it seemed, and not even so fast. Throughout the entire July, we were still pretty much down. Then we started taking off, and it was, especially until November, we rose pretty fast. Except when I went on vacations, I left with some older uploads, and now things have slightly sort of gone lower. We're not in a period of great subscriptions. There have been others, right? As you see here, the longer. Well, we did something. There's always room for improvement. There's always room for growth. There is always room for increasing, and we can't complain. The income has stabilized. The views, the watch lengths as well. So this is supposed to be actually a period of stagnation, and things in reality are not stagnating. They're just going how they should, right? And so every once in a while I make a video that makes more views, and I already kind of know which it is in advance because I know your reactions, and I provoke you a little with this stuff, and that's in many ways what this channel is about. Will it improve? Will there be a game changer in everything? I don't think so. I don't think we're gonna get very far soon, at least. There can be some, I've always made the video in this format, so I don't see the reason to do it differently. There could be some changes. There could be some again, mostly improvement in quality, but it's not going to be it's going to be about the script. It's going to be about just the sketch, the type of information, wherever I manage to organize it. Probably it's also my language that can help. At least my language is much better now, even if I haven't made really much English practice, at least in a direct sort of sense, to be understood by the person in front of me. And you know that I'm rambling. I know that I'm sort of weirdly organized, but again, there is a logic. This. It's not like I don't know what I'm doing, right? I deliberately choose this to be the case. A last emotional thing on the 20,000. I admit that over time, looking at this subscribers number rising, you concentrate more on the dynamic than thinking that behind that there are actual people, right? And naturally, just a few of you actually follow my content. And there are people who follow me also without being subscribed or without even having a YouTube account. That is important to me. I will not lie. I think that the more we are, the stronger we are. I spent enough time before explaining how I think that we should be compact. There should be an internal cohesion, that this content sharing is particularly important in perspective. Like, you can't really do without it. And so 20,000 is really a place where I didn't think I would get that fast up to a relatively few time ago. I spent lots of years like basically running on empty, like the song. And now, like 20,000, it can be a good launching pad, right, for more. I don't have an objective. I don't think this will ever arrive to the millions, but say 200,000, yes. I hope it's gonna be, and maybe like to the heroic people who arrived at the end of the video, like what I always said regarding sharing this is like trying to get the philosophy behind that, right? You can't be maybe there is an aspect that I downplay. Never said this in any video I've ever made, except, well, okay, I said here and there that of course I consider myself to be say not necessarily even a good historian for that matter, but let's say what I do regarding military history compared to what you find on YouTube, yes, it is actually the best in terms of historical accuracy. It is not to say that every video is perfect, or that it's always also about the same level of analysis or research. But even aside from the wall, like the method I use, the topics I cover, the actual, say, the aspects I highlight, they are really the deal. Because I don't know any channel that focuses on both the historical and the military process, and that uses an actual method for the reconstruction of the art of war. In part, the reason is that, again, I do the latter for a living, and so I can transpose it in here, and of course not so thoroughly as I would do when I publish something, but it is at least in a there is an interesting comment they left on Reddit recently that sounded something like, what's the best I think it was about medieval warfare content I can't find. There were a couple, I know it's some of you there, that said something like, Schwerpunkt is not exactly what people are searching for here in general, referring indirectly to my format, and I can't blame them. But the said probably he is the one, I don't remember the term he used, like the one that has the right frame, like has the right mindset in order to talk about them, and I like that, because yes, my numbers here not so much. You are so much. 20,000 is a lot, and you are individually very valuable. I don't consider you to be those happy few. Also, not just because of the 20,000, but because, of course, this content is meant to be something more, let's say, accessible in a sense. It's something that more people are meant to watch, and so that's why I make it this way. But let's say this content is truly meant, as I said before, for those people who are going to work on it, right? We're going to work in a way that can be paper and pencil, but that is mostly about being able to challenge your own limits, your own fears to an extent, and the fact that what I say can be harsh, can be challenging, can be offensive, can be really not nice, right? But I'm not fooling you, right? I'm not here to give you something that can make you feel temporarily like everything's fine, and then it's not, right? I can make mistakes. I can usually I say what mistakes I make right away in the same video, and or I resume. As I said before, like there are some comments, for example, that I don't publish, but that I make the question and answer video. Why? Because I think that a person who comes on a certain video sees that question may think that without watching the video, which is the easiest thing in that sense, read the comments and not listening to the 2 hours long, more difficult, complex thing, they are gonna assume that my content is that sort of say of the same nature, and that's not something I tolerate. But I make the actual video about the question, and I read it, and I therefore show it. I don't hide it. So there is a very inner complex mechanism that hides, let's say, behind this process. What do you want to do? I know that my content is always going to be misunderstood. This is evident, just considering the amount of it. But paradoxically, given also that, as always, YouTube shows just a minimal, say recommends just a minimal part of my content overall. Like it's as if I made all this stuff and then just 100 of it was circling right in a relevant sense, and hardly more than 100 views every 48 hours. And just like, there are very few videos, like you can't count them individually. Very I see it from the stats. The others, like, people come across, again, YouTube is a pretty trafficked place after all. I'm not going to descend into how long will YouTube be around still, and similar things, but people like come across my content, they in the most unpredictable way. Like there is no way that I can tell like how to just how I can't control the process as much as I can't control people's minds, of course. So the best I have is literally just how I pose myself, how straightforward I am. I prefer to be sincere. Like it doesn't make any sense for me to again hide my actual beliefs, my actual say like the entire purpose of this all, like how it is all one with my personal experiences, with the system, how I conceived it. Like it couldn't be otherwise. Again, I told you about all these issues because it can perhaps show you better how real they are. I mean, there's real things that happen to me, and I feel like there is like something to be gained from talking about it, to expose it, to make you feel how it is from the other side. Because otherwise, it's just, there are all those YouTube videos that go like, oh my god, it's so hard, I don't get. I know people have, I don't know, hundreds of millions of subscribers who complain because people don't watch their videos as much as they did in the past, and they say, oh my god, I'm so broken, I don't know what to do, I feel like this, I feel like that. I can't think of something less masculine than that. I prefer to be confrontational, combative, and always ready to aggress, to attack, to fight. Even if I don't have to recur to that, it was part that's called deterrence, and I guess that in part this has already shielded my channel from some cheaper issues, let's say. But as I was pointing out, it's really it is really all about this stuff. Like it is about imposing yourself. It is like even the fact that I'm in charge in here, Like YouTube is the ultimate presence, but for anything else that I can manage here, I'm responsible. So this also brings a lot of, like, you must make some obvious choices. So you can't be just let's say, so for example, not taking decisions. There are lots of people again that let everything run, including the worst comment, the worst sort of vibes. It happens. It's really something that, in perspective, seems to be okay, but this doesn't matter. No, there must be a direction, must be an order, must be an imposition, because otherwise, what do we do it for? Like, it can't be just a YouTube channel. It must be a mean to an end of some sort. And that's where I feel more comforted, actually, where I feel that this channel is all in order, and there is some degree of, say, functionality. So I appreciate very much this number of subscriptions, even from those people who are still on trial. On trial, so the trial about myself as well, like, not just as far as I don't, again, kick out people for other reasons than the extreme ones that I listed before, and so I think I'm stern but fair, and that's more or less the policy is going to remain. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I plan to continue. I plan to stick more or less to what I've done so far, and to grow mostly as a point of reference for all the massive library that I uploaded, which is sort of the most interesting thing. But I must make this kind of video to glue everything together, to keep an order, to keep a balance. And when I see that, say, the cost of sort of trying to explain, like, exceeds the possibility of the channel to grow further in a healthy way, like I say, okay, I have to make that choice, right? And that's pretty much it. Can't think of anything else. Also, for the first people who followed me and say that, like, at least the newest ones will probably wonder why I make this like 2 hours long update, but the thing being easier than it seems, there is I normally make videos this long, right? So this is not going to be any kind of different, and it's just a chance to say more, to make people more curious, to let them flock further to my channel, and that can always be an idea for some strange time spent listening. For today, however, I stop it here. I just hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please share it. Otherwise, leave a like or subscribe to my channel if you're interested in my upcoming content. As always, I thank you heartily for listening to me. I wish you a nice time, and see you next time. Bye.